It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a subscribe. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has been doing a lot of interviews lately. She thinks that she looks good when talking about certain national issues that come to fray in Los Angeles, like the ICE raid. So she's using it to get a lot of attention. And usually if she goes on a national show or a podcast, she doesn't really get asked any tough questions because those hosts don't really know what's going on in Los Angeles. Over the weekend, she went on a podcast called Love It or Leave It. I don't know. I see a politician on one of these shows and I subscribe. And then like a year later, I don't remember what the show is, but hey, Karen Bass is on it. And Karen Bass is now joining the fray of politicians who like to curse.
I want to start with what's obviously been happening in Los Angeles. So Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino said in response to your comments describing certain ICE raids as kidnappings, what he said was, we're going to go even harder here in Los Angeles. If she wants to continue that rhetoric, it makes me want to go harder. What is your response to that?
Well, aside from the fact that that's bull, but...
Oh my. Everyone's cursing these days. And to my point, if every politician, the people that we're supposed to look up, is dropping S-bombs and F-bombs and A-bombs and what have you, who are we protecting with these stupid rules that say on broadcast television and on broadcast radio, you can't use these words? Not that I need to use these words. It's not that I have a desire to just launch out a whole bunch of F-bombs on the radio. I've never thought I needed to do that. I think you could be more creative than that. It's more about that I'm so sick of having to edit out politicians swearing. And when someone like Gavin Newsom goes on a podcast, I can't just download it and play it for you on this show or on John Phillips's show. I have to listen to the whole thing. I have to scrub it for the swears, to use a Javier Baccaria term. It's true. When Gavin Newsom does his own podcast, which I am probably the only subscriber to, I have to, and it's very nice that we have this technology now, but Apple Podcasts will automatically transcribe a show. And then I go for search inside the transcription, and then I put every curse word imaginable just to see if there's anything in here. And look at this. Gavin Newsom's latest podcast, and this is how we prevent election fraud, blah, 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 blah. If I do a search, 20 minutes into it, Gavin Newsom says, it's time we call out the bleep bleep. Anyway, that's what happens when politicians go on podcasts or they go on cable news, which I don't think is nearly as relevant as people like to make it sound. But it is relevant when a politician goes on the local news and does a local interview. And there are fewer places this week than there were last week to do those interviews. We don't know what he's doing next, but I'm pretty bummed out about the fact that Alex Michelson of Fox 11 is leaving for who knows what. I'm sure it's going to be better things for him, and I'm very excited for him. But that Friday night show, The Issue Is, gave me a lot of content. A lot of interviews that we could be dissecting on the radio, and he would get access to a lot of politicians. So that's not here. So there's really only two other places where you can get a long form interview, and they're not on Friday nights. They're on Sunday mornings. Sporadically, ABC7 will do something called Eyewitness Newsmakers with Mark Brown, and she sat there a few times, and I've gotten some content out of that. But that doesn't air every Sunday, and this is a very personal complaint. For some reason, ABC7, Eyewitness News, doesn't post those shows, these 22-minute public affairs shows that sometimes have very relevant information on them, on their YouTube channel. I don't know why they don't do that. But the other game in town, and at this point, now with Alex leaving the Los Angeles area, maybe, I don't know, maybe he's going to a rival channel. I don't know where he's going. I have asked. I'm sure he'll reveal it soon. The biggest game in town for local public affairs on television is NBC4 with news conference hosted by Conan Nolan. And what do you know? Karen Bass went on with Conan Nolan this weekend for 21 minutes, and she didn't come off great because Conan Nolan knows a lot of the issues, not just the ones that make her look good so she could talk about national issues. But let's go ahead and tee her up and start talking about national stuff. Let's hear what Karen Bass has to say about the feds taking over the police in D.C.
But join us as we talk to the 43rd mayor of the city of Los Angeles, the Honorable Karen Bass. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me here.
Lots to talk about. Let's start off with Washington, D.C.
Sure.
For those who don't know, the president has sent federal agents, FBI, DEA, Homeland Security, as well as hundreds of National Guard troops into the streets of Washington to fight crime. Are you concerned that we're next?
Can we have that? Could the residents of Encino get some of that? Can we send the DEA to MacArthur Park? Can we work in collaboration with the federal government and everyone be on the same page that crime is unacceptable? And I don't care what you're saying about the crime numbers being down. You look at what's going on with the lawlessness in a place like Los Angeles. Yeah, some cracking down needs to be done. And if it's a problem with our juveniles, we got to figure that one out. Because the answer can't be, well, we don't want to arrest any juveniles that are in those street takeovers because we don't want to put them in the juvenile facilities because something will happen and then we'll get sued. That doesn't work.
Well, absolutely, I am. And remember...
Oh, she does that now a lot, too. Karen Bass is scratching that Shang Tao itch.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, absolutely, I am. And remember, I said I thought the experiment began with us over immigration. But it's been clear the president has mentioned homelessness and he's mentioned crime.
Both things that are unacceptable. Both things that Los Angeles sticks out like a sore thumb with.
And it seems as though he's testing the country. Well, we'll try it this way, we'll try it that way. Will there be major opposition to federal intervention? I can only imagine how all of those agencies feel by putting on the street and doing what D.C. cops should be doing, as opposed to the FBI, the DEA, et cetera.
So the mayor, Muriel Bowser, a friend of yours, she was repulsed by it initially, but then she started cooperating. So, well, maybe it'll bring down crime. Her police chief, who I assume she talked to, sent out a message to the officers on the beat. Listen, cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
I like that. You know, ultimately, we should all be on the same team, especially when it comes to law enforcement. You might have some issues, maybe legitimate issues with the people that are being targeted in the immigration raids. But when it comes to going after crime, going after lawlessness, going after the unacceptable homeless problem, is there really another side?
But you know what? No, we would not do that. But D.C. is in an entirely different situation. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Because D.C. is not a state, and there's no state that they're connected to, the federal government really does control everything. So, for example, if she were to come out and blast the administration, the federal government is in charge of her budget. And
that's also true here, Karen. Where do you think a lot of that police funding comes from?
And can impose policies unilaterally on the city. So she's in a very different situation.
Right. I don't know if the president sees that distinction.
Well, that might be true, considering what happened here.
Right.
Speaking of that, it's time to hear Karen Bass talk about all the drama that went on this summer with the ICE raids.
So let's talk about immigration and the raids. You've gotten high marks from people for being upfront and out front. That the incident at
From who? Just because her face is on television doesn't mean, I mean, even if you're a big supporter of her and her position on this, It's not like she's really been able to do anything to stop them.
The incident at MacArthur Park, just the other day at Little Tokyo, you were there. The question is, I mean, most people believe at some point there's a relationship between federal, state, and city.
Right.
Do you have any relationship with Bill O'Saley? He's the U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump. He's sort of the legal point person for the immigration raids. Or for Gregory Bovino, who's the ICE person up front here, point person. Have you talked to them? Can you call them up on the phone?
Yes, I can call them up. And I think you know how this works. I might be in bitter disagreement over here on this issue, but we do still have to cooperate because there's so many other issues.
You mean like the big bust that the feds had on Figueroa Boulevard with the gang led by a woman named, what was her name? Something Duck. Not Duck Fat, but Lady Duck. Lady Duck is a gang member pimp who was turning teenagers into teenage prostitutes. And this was happening for years on Figueroa. Did the locals do anything about it? I mean, the thing with prostitution, especially sex trafficking of minors, where they're walking up and down a public street, it's not like this was done in secret. But nothing was done about this issue for many years until the feds started looking at it this year. What's up with that?
To deal with. There's criminal cases that Bill O'Saley will be dealing with. With Bovino, I actually had been in conversation with him. I haven't been in conversation recently. As a matter of fact, the last time I talked to him was when I was at MacArthur Park. That's who I was.
Oh, yeah. When Karen Bass brilliantly figured out a way to not be at the 6-month fire press conference where she'd have to once again answer questions for why she was in Ghana, and decided to insert herself into the story and talk about how great MacArthur Park is because that's where people take their kids. Sure.
That's who I was on the phone speaking with.
But it seems from this distance, there's antipathy.
Right now on this issue. But again, there's many other issues that we have to work on.
Have you heard from business owners about immigration? And
all the time. All the time I have. Absolutely.
About business?
Boy, she's really doing it now, isn't she?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All the time I have. Absolutely.
About business or about employment?
Well, both. Certainly about businesses and the impact on businesses, on workers being afraid to go to work. And the decline in businesses. You look at our garment district. Our garment district has been a ghost town. There's over 4,000 businesses there. It has been hit very, very hard. Definitely worried about the construction industry.
Okay, this one always confuses me. I don't understand the inner workings of the garment industry for 1 second, but that the whole point is you can't hire people in the country illegally for jobs like that.
So far, I can't tell you concretely that has been impacted, but they conducted a raid near Altadena and they conducted a raid in Marina del Rey, which could certainly impact.
And you might wonder, why is it that if what Karen Bass is saying is that, construction workers are part of this workforce that we're losing with all these deportations, why are people hiring people under the table cash? Well, it could be that so many state regulations, while you hear the word regulation, you might think it has to do with building codes. Part of what makes building in this city, in this county, and in the state so expensive is some of the regulations that get passed for things like building affordable housing is minimum wage standards and union standards. And these are the kinds of people you have to hire, and you have to pay them this amount of money to do these projects. And, well, some developers say, screw that. I'm going to hire the people in the country illegally for $18 an hour. And I guess Karen Bass is okay with that.
Workers at the Palisades, right. But there's no direct evidence of that yet.
So the Secretary of Labor says, listen, if you pay people enough, give them enough benefits, you won't have to require undocumented immigrants to do the work. This probably wasn't part of your equation, but I could easily see the Secretary of Labor say, look at L.A. They signed a $30 an hour minimum wage hike for hotel workers, tack in the $8 an hour for health care, $38 an hour.
We'll get to that one.
that wasn't part of your calculation, but they will say, listen, this is the kind of increase in pay that we need in order to get.
But you know
American.
what? But that's fascinating that they would say that, because they will fight tooth and nail a raise in the federal wage, the federal minimum wage, which is $7.50 an hour.
Now, Karen Bass didn't realize what she just walked into. Conan Nolan is ready to set her up on an issue that doesn't get nearly enough attention, something where the mayor has completely failed on, and that is negotiating or helping negotiate this impasse between the hotel worker unions and the hotels, where you might see competing ballot initiatives next year. One that would increase the minimum wage for everyone to $30 an hour. Good luck with that, Los Angeles. Or two, undo the $30 an hour minimum wage that was passed by the LA City Council for tourism workers. We'll hear what Karen Bass has to say about her failure to mediate about that, because I don't know, she's distracted with doing 10,000 interviews about how awful the immigration raids are, when we come back, as we listen to Karen Bass have to answer tough questions from Conan Nolan of NBC4. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're going through Karen Bass's sit-down with NBC4's Conan Nolan this weekend. And Conan's going to ask a question that doesn't get all the big flashy headlines the way ICE raids do. He's going to ask about an issue where Karen Bass has been completely absent. And that is the war going on between the hotels and the unions that represent the workers, where the unions fandangled their way through the LA City Council to get a $30 an hour minimum wage by 2028 passed through them for tourism workers, which means people that work at hotels and people that work at the airports. I guess if you work at Ripley's, believe it or not, that's not a tourism job. The hotels have pushed back with a ballot initiative that would repeal it, and the union said, okay, screw you, we're going to have a ballot initiative that passes $30 an hour for everybody. Good luck with that. I can't wait to ask for my raise if that passes. Let's hear what Karen Bass has to say on this. I believe this is the first time anyone has asked her about this issue. So good on Conan Nolan.
Let me ask you about that particular issue, though. The Unite Here, the hotel workers wanted this pay increase. The Hotel Association says you're more than doubling our labor costs. We're going to have to either raise...
Because it's not just $30 an hour. It's also $8 an hour for health care. So that's quite a lot.
We're going to have to either raise rates in a time when there's declining tourism or lay people off. The last time I talked to them, they said they wanted to have a conversation with you. Did you ever meet with the hotel owners?
Oh, I've met with the hotel owners several times.
What about their complaint? What was it about?
Well, their complaint, they're worried about businesses being down, period, before the raise. And of course, they're worried about it in the future.
And also, they're like, why should we be in the city of Los Angeles when if we're right outside the city of Los Angeles, we don't have to deal with this? LA County, this isn't a thing. This is just LA City. And most tourists don't understand the difference.
We have the World Cup.
Do you know how much of the LA 2020 Olympics is not being played in the city of Los Angeles? Most of it.
We have the World Cup coming. We have the Olympics coming. There were
also the World Cup, too. I think some of those games are being played at SoFi.
We have the World Cup coming. We have the Olympics coming. There were plans for expanding and building new hotels. And I think that
Universal Hilton was going to double their property. They saw this and they said, LA doesn't look like a very friendly place for business.
Is not happening right now, or at least not right now. But I have been talking to both sides about the issue and really want to come to some resolution. I don't want to see competing ballot initiatives.
Well, let's talk about that so that people understand. The hotel owners want to go to the ballot to repeal the $30 minimum wage.
Right.
Unite Here says we'll go to the ballot to have the minimum wage apply to everybody in the city.
Exactly.
Plus a city vote on anything you build here.
Right.
Any kind of change at the convention center, any new hotel.
And let me,
oh, boy. That'll be a nightmare. It'll be an election every week.
Even venues for the Olympics, a citywide vote.
And you know what? That would cause everything to come to a complete halt. As it is difficult.
Are you going to stand up to the union, though? Because you let them steamroll the city council with this nonsense.
To build in Los Angeles to begin with. And so to me, one thing that I absolutely agree with, and we all...
Boy, she loves using that word now.
One thing that I absolutely agree with, and we all know, it is too expensive here. Rent is too expensive. Housing is too expensive. We do need to lift wages, but we can't lift wages to the point where businesses cannot function. And
so what are you as mayor doing about this? Because this is the first time I've heard you talk about this, and this has been a problem for months. Oh, too busy on national issues, huh? Too busy talking to Maddow and Love It or Leave It podcast and all the other stuff to get your face out there. We'll continue with Karen Bass and her sit down with Conan Nolan as he asks about the Palisades rebuild, the homeless numbers, the Olympics, and the popularity of her party. Stick around. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go back to LA Mayor Karen Bass in her sit down with Conan Nolan on NBC4 as she tries to squirm her way around the fact that she's done completely nothing when it comes to the battle between the hotels and the hotel unions over this $30 an hour minimum wage.
And so that's why I said I am working with both sides. I want people to come together because I don't want to see these dueling battle initiatives. So
You're confident because these are two elements.
I didn't say I was confident.
You're confident you will keep these ballot measures off.
No, I am not confident of that.
No, because she doesn't have her eye on the ball with that. That's a local issue that's below her pay grade. She's got to go to the inauguration of Ghana.
I am going to do everything I can to prevent that. The negotiations and discussions no, not together, talking to them separately.
No, why would I bring everyone in the same room to hammer this out? They're just going to go to war with each other and spend a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of ballot initiatives. What happens if they both pass? It is LA. We do say yes to a lot of stupid stuff. All right, let's hear what Karen Bass has to say about the Palisades, an issue she didn't talk that much about because she's too busy talking about national issues.
So Palisades fire recovery. There are people that are in the Palisades who believe your eye has been taken off the ball over there because of immigration and customs enforcement. Dissuade them of that.
Oh, absolutely. My eye.
She can't stop every time.
Absolutely not.
Oh, absolutely. My eye will never be taken off the ball from Palisades. And frankly, I won't stop until every Palisadian that wants to move back has returned. I was in the Palisades.
You'll be long gone by then, even if you do win re-election.
Has returned. I was in the Palisades yesterday, and I will tell you that it is inspiring to see the number of homes that are coming up.
So there are structures going up.
There's over 50 homes that...
Didn't like 12,000 burn down? And you're celebrating 50? And you remember, Karen Bass kept doing all these press conferences in front of the one house that had started construction on a block. And she's like, look at this. It's a sign of hope. And then they interview the homeowner. This is as far as we can go because State Farm hasn't paid us out.
That are going up. There's about 1,000 people who are in the process of permits, and over 300 permits have been granted. But you know what, though?
1,000 in the process of permits? It's 7 months later. That's a massive indictment of how bad the city of LA is at doing this, even in an emergency. And does she care? No, because it's faster than what happened in the campfire. And that's all that matters.
And over 300 permits have been granted. But you know what, though? I always have to remember that if you lost your home, to hear me talk about how great everything is, you're still out of your home.
Oh, this is the Karen Bass thing, is where she admits that what she's doing is a failure, but says, I understand you have trauma. I understand you're upset. So it doesn't matter that I'm gaslighting you with how great everything is because you have trauma. It's so patronizing.
And I think we have to be sensitive to that. But I'm trying to do everything I possibly can. We've started the centralized rebuilding process, and I'm constantly reaching out to see if there's any weaknesses, if things are falling through the cracks. What do we need to do to improve the system?
By the way, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this because I've been meaning to play this for a couple of days. You want to know what the city of Los Angeles was busy doing as soon as we started with rebuilding in the Palisades? Well, you think the first things that we would do would be to speed up that permit process, get the AI going that Rick Caruso gave them. But no, the first thing the city of LA wanted to do was put up a park in a neighborhood where nobody lives anymore because all the houses burned down. And wait till you hear what they decided would be the perfect things to put in this playground. This happened last week as Rick Caruso took a guy I used to work for, Adam Carolla, on a walk through the Palisades.
Oh, Adam, come here. Let's just walk around this way, just for fun. There you go.
So they rebuilt this lickety-split for the kids, and they put a giant fire truck.
You know how if you go to a playground, sometimes there's a little airplane that's like on springs that can go back and forth, or maybe it's a car. Well, the brilliant people who rebuilt the Palisades Park in the middle of nothing because everything's been burned down decided, oh, you know what's going to be great? The kids can have fire trucks here. That's not, to use one of Karen Bass's terms, traumatizing now, is it?
There.
Well, and multiple ones, and an ambulance. It has definitely caused a lot of consternation in the community. I think the city.
And by the way, Rick Caruso said, don't build that park yet because we're going to have to tear it down when we redo the rec center. But no, they needed a headline. We're bringing back hope. So we're building a park that no one's going to go to that has tasteless things in it like fire trucks.
I think the city now has realized that, and they're trying to figure out how to change it out.
Yeah. I think they call it tone deaf is what. But also, the thing that I'm always interested in life about is it's not one guy who went rogue and said, I'm going to put a fire truck here.
Right.
It had to go through a committee. It had to pass through multiple levels. People had to stamp it. Like, I felt that way when UPS came up with the slogan, what can Brown do for you?
Okay, Carolla's going to go on his tangent, but you should watch that whole video. Just do a Google on the YouTube for Carolla Caruso. It's wild. Because they go through Caruso's property, which was built correctly and had a private fire department, and it did not burn down. All right, back to Bass.
Councilman Tracy Park introduced an ordinance that would waive permits fees.
Right.
That's still percolating through the council.
Yes, but I am.
That's still going through the legislative process. This city can rush through something when they want to, but when it doesn't really matter to them, even when you have the one person on that council that is common sense, it's just pathetic.
But I am.
What happened to treating all this like an emergency?
But I am.
Did you sign that?
Oh, no. 100%.
She almost said absolutely again.
100%. I did an executive directive calling for a suspension of the fees because she did that.
You didn't have the power to waive them.
Right. She did her proposal in February, and so what I did.
It's August. Oh, and the city council in the middle of several emergencies took a month off. Great.
And so what I did stopped people from having to pay fees right now. So I suspended them because it's a 2-point process. There's my role in it, but there's also the council role. It's making its way through the council now. Now, unfortunately, there are a number of people that had already paid fees before she did her proposal.
Yeah, people got billed because this city can't act fast for anything.
Before she did her proposal and before I did my executive directive, we will reimburse them. But I am 100% confident that the fees will be raised. And I will tell you, it's an $89 million hit to the general fund. But I believe that
That's nothing. You know how much Inside Safe is costing every year? $880 million.
But I believe that we will raise the money to cover that. No one should have to pay for fees.
So the LA Times, Julie Wick and Matt Hamilton, the Times last month did a 6-month peace since the fires. They say that Palestinians give you, some say you're doing your best. They appreciate it. Others say you haven't done enough.
Right.
The criticism has been, it's been sort of disjointed when it comes to navigating the recovery. You got Haggerty Consulting was hired. That's a disaster recovery firm.
Oh, we have paid so many people so much money to tell us how to manage this disaster.
You got Haggerty Consulting was hired. That's a disaster recovery firm. Then there was the hiring of AECOM, a global engineering firm. And then you had the developer, Steve Soboroff, who later on said, I wasn't invited to these meetings.
Oh, yeah. Remember that whole thing where we were going to give Soboroff $500,000 for 3 months of work. And then when that came out, they were like, oh, we're not going to give you the $500,000. And then they got rid of him early. And it was like, what was the point of him to begin with? And nobody really knows. And he wasn't talking to the state and they weren't talking to Steadfast. And, you know, I know a lot happened this year, but let's not forget how much of a mess this recovery has been. For as much as Karen Bass wants to talk about, it's the fastest recovery ever.
Dissuade us of the notion that that could have been done better.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I do think
She can't help herself every time.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I do think it could have been done better. But let me just explain, because I do think that there is some confusion. Steven Soboroff came on board for 90 days to get things off the ground. Haggerty came on board right away, and they work internally. They're still there. They work in.
How much money are they getting? Do you see that story of the law firm that Karen Bass and the city council hired to represent them in the homeless case with Judge Carter? And apparently they wiped out a $2 million retainer in like 3 weeks that was supposed to be for 2 years. City's great with spending money on lawyers and consultants, which, by the way, I thought we have a city attorney. So if we have a city attorney that we pay in a city attorney's office, why are we hiring an outside law firm? I don't know. All these people know how to do is write checks. Whether they're effective or not doesn't matter. What has Haggerty done? You remember those clips? Nobody knows.
They work internally to the city to make sure that our departments are doing everything that they can.
Isn't that your job?
AECOM has also started working with us, and they're taking over in terms of the overall management. So there has been some confusion about that.
All I've heard is Karen Bass has hired a whole bunch of consultants to improve the speed of rebuilding, and it's not moving much faster, is it? Love to see how much all of those firms are costing us. We'll continue with Karen Bass on the Palisades and, of course, her homeless numbers. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's continue with Karen Bass on the Palisades recovery and all the money that went to consultants.
So there has been some confusion about that. There's things that absolutely could have been handled better.
Understatement of the year. You know what? I can't take any more of that. We're going to have to move on to a different topic. Hey, here's something that'll make everyone happy. 790 KABC welcomes Shocked, the Tony Award-winning musical comedy about corn. It's coming to the Hollywood Pantages Theater August 19th through September 7th. I'm going to see it this week. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-795-2222 gets a pair of tickets to the show on August 28th. Tickets furnished by the Hollywood Pantages Theater. Good luck dialing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go through LA Mayor Karen Bass explain the homeless numbers to Conan Nolan.
Your numbers have show an improvement in homeless. There are people who don't believe them.
Right.
Pretty much this entire audience.
Believe them.
Right.
And they don't. And certainly the Washington is saying they don't like the housing first approach. Are you still committed to that? And so for people to understand, housing first means you get them off the street, you find them permanent supportive housing, but you don't deal with their mental illness first. You don't deal with their drug addiction first. You find them a place to live first.
Disagree 100%. You do it all. It is.
You're not doing any of that. You're putting people in a Motel 6. If you really disagreed with Holly Mitchell's Housing First, which is a state policy, we're not even allowed to use state money right now on treatment housing, you'd be advocating for treatment beds, not hotels.
It is not sufficient to house somebody and think that they're going to resolve their issues on their own. It is one of the major...
If you know that, then why are we doing that?
It is one of the major weaknesses in the system now that we are trying to address, which is you can get somebody off the street. We find that that is not difficult. But what is woefully inadequate are the comprehensive services that individuals need.
Right, but Housing First also requires, correct me if I'm wrong, for an individual to have dominion over their condition so they can voluntarily seek help. And as long as getting off the street is voluntary or finding help is voluntary, you're not going to solve the problem.
And you know,
Can we get Conan Nolan to be the mayor? And yeah, even Gavin Newsom's highly touted care court is voluntary. So it's meaningless. That's why it hasn't done a damn thing in the last 3 years.
and you know what? I am a big believer as a former medical professional that there are some people who are so profoundly ill, they cannot voluntarily make those decisions.
And we've put them in hotel rooms.
And some people should be hospitalized against their will, but stabilized. And it's so interesting because people who say this is a civil liberties issue, and I can understand where they're coming from, but where is the objection about incarcerating people who are mentally ill? Because that is what we currently do. Twin Towers is filled with people who are mentally ill, who need medical help and not incarceration.
You know, if this was 2022 and Karen Bass was running for mayor, I'd say, okay, that's a very nice answer. But since she's been mayor for 3.5 years, the question is, well, how come you haven't done anything to steer us towards that? Because she hasn't. Thank you all so much for listening. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.